Well, for today's perspective, we're going to talk now to a reader in French and European politics at King's College London, Jim Wolfreys. He's a specialist on the far right. Thanks for joining us on the programme today. So once again, then, the far right failing in its bid to take power.
Yes, absolutely. We could see, I think, in the footage of Rassemblement National gatherings on election night, the extent of the frustration and resentment felt by RN supporters at the result. And it's possible this will increase internal tension in the organisation and generate a sense that the odds are stacked against the party. But I think as time goes on, after the initial surprise of the result, the fact that the Rassemblement National is disappointed at not winning a parliamentary majority can be seen already as a victory of sorts, and the fact that the period opening up is going to be one of a degree of institutional instability, a sense of political crisis. This is going to reinforce the organisation's status as an outsider to the mainstream, and this is an element that is probably as important as the dédiabolisation, the detoxification of the party that is constantly talked about.
I mean, they have got a bit of a point, haven't they, National Front voters? I mean, every time they seem to be doing well, everybody else who doesn't like them kind of stacks up against them, meaning that, maybe they'll never get power.
Well, I think that that's true to a certain extent. It was certainly true in 2017, in 2022, when Macron won in presidential elections against Marine Le Pen, and the organisation didn't perform as well as it has done today in the parliamentary elections. But I think that is also that process of shutting out the RN is also subject to a kind of law of diminishing returns, in that there are only so many times you can present yourself as a candidate saying, we are the candidate that will block the RN. And I think the Macron experience has shown that unless you deliver something for people, you're going to find it harder to get people to support you simply as a bulwark against the far right, because people will say, what are you delivering for us? So the big loser in this election has been the Macron coalition, and the RN, despite coming third, has hugely increased its total share of seats. 20 years ago, it only had a handful of deputies. So this is an election that the far right traditionally finds the hardest. It has to present hundreds of candidates. It has to win 50% of votes on the second round. So its score in this election is undoubtedly a cause for concern over the medium to longer term.
So that presumably is very worrying for opponents to the far right in 3 years' time, when France is going to be facing a presidential election. Absolutely,
because one of the disadvantages the party has had, and we heard it in your report, is that it has to stand over 500 candidates who can be subjected to scrutiny of their utterances, of their past political activity, and so on. And the organisation still finds it difficult to do that. It still finds it difficult to present itself as the respectable party that the dédiabolisation narrative would have us believe. But the party has always been about more than just presenting a respectable image. It's also been about presenting itself as an outsider, as a party that is prepared to adopt deeply discriminatory, racist measures, that is prepared to be more authoritarian than its rivals. And so in the period between now and the presidential election, on the one hand, it's going to be able to professionalize a larger number of deputies, and these deputies will be able to employ political assistants and advisors who will also become part of that process of respectabilization. But at the same time, the organisation is still able to present itself as the outsider, as the party that stands outside of the mainstream, while the other parties join together to block its progress. So there's a dynamic underway that the Popular Front's success shows is not inevitable, can be broken, can be interrupted, can be disrupted. But it's a dynamic that is underway now for quite a long period, and will take more than one election to break. So,
yeah,
yes.
trying to shed that racist image did go a bit wrong, didn't it, during this campaign? We had images of one candidate wearing a Nazi hat, for example. I mean, presumably if people have got, or the party has now 3 years to try and get its act really in order, rather than having to face a snap election, that kind of problem, hopefully for them, from their point of view anyway, would be ironed out.
Well, I think it's important to remember, people often talk about the roots of the Rassemblement National as if this is something that belongs to the past. This was an organisation that was founded by individuals who considered themselves revolutionary nationalists, who identified with the legacy of fascism, and who consciously attempted to adapt that legacy to present-day conditions. Now, it's not just because Marine Le Pen has become leader and Jordan Bardella has been presented as this respectable figure to front up the European and the parliamentary elections, that all that has gone away. This is a party that is steeped in a culture of authoritarian nationalism, of racism, of discrimination, and this culture is expressed in terms of things like the racist conspiratorial notion of the Great Replacement, which Marine Le Pen and Jordan Bardella are careful not to articulate necessarily in those terms, but are on record as saying that they agree with some of with the basic premise underpinning it. So it's a party that has a radicalization at its core. And so the kind of candidates that we've seen cropping up in these elections are part of the culture of the organisation. Some of them are now going to sit in the National Assembly. And I think part of what those who want to oppose the rise of this organisation are confronted with is how to expose that dynamic, how to expose that gap between the respectable image and the culture of the party, the culture of its activists, the culture of its origins, and the culture of radical authoritarian nationalism that lies at the core of the organisation.
Good to talk to you on the programme today. Thanks very much for joining us. Jim Wolfreys, reader in French and European politics at King's College in London. Thank you very much.
Thank you.